I've seen it for so many years and doing this for over 25 years now of just going into homes and seeing people live in their spaces. And one of the things that's sort of a baseline with all families, and mine included, yours included, is that life gets in the way. And there's too many things that become a priority and things that you just focus your energy on. But you realize, and I've come to realize, that in all those years of doing design for real people and going into real homes, is that baseline is the same, is that this foundation that you come into every day and you come home to every day, start your day in and sort of spend a lot of time in, really starts to have an impact on you.
Welcome to Demystifying PANS and PANDAS, the podcast where we uncover the mysteries, breakthroughs, and hope behind these life-altering conditions. I'm Dr. Nancy O'Hara, a board-certified pediatrician, educator, and advocate with over 3 decades of experience helping children and families navigate the challenges of neurodevelopmental and neuropsychiatric conditions, especially PANS and PANDAS. These disorders can feel overwhelming, but here we'll break down the science, explore transformative treatments, and share stories of resilience and recovery. If you've ever wondered what's possible for your child or how to find answers, this is the place to start. Let's dive in. Hi, everybody. It's Dr. Nancy O'Hara, and welcome back to Demystifying PANS PANDAS. I can't tell you how thrilled I am today to welcome a dear friend and very well-known designer and author, Stephen Saint-Onge. His work has reached millions across the globe because he's kept his work really relatable to the everyday family. You've seen his expertise featured on Oprah, The Today Show, CNN, BBC. His design philosophy has been a mainstay in magazines like Better Homes and Gardens, Family Circle, House Beautiful, Elle Decor, and he's the author of a book, No Place Like Home, which I love, a title that perfectly captures his lifelong commitment to family and his belief in attainable and real-life design. And Stephen's turning his years of hands-on experience and industry expertise toward a powerful new mission, which is to empower, educate, and motivate all of us to look at our environments through a completely different lens. Because Stephen believes that space we surround ourselves will impact us in ways we see and also in ways we don't see. So our surroundings can lift us up or pull us down, and Stephen's here to show us how we can take that power to our advantage and make our environments a tool to help us live our very best lives. So, Stephen, welcome.
Thank you. Wow, that's quite an intro. I appreciate it. And it's great to see you because I know this is it's something near and dear to your heart, and to be a part of it and be in this episode. Thank you for asking me, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Well, you know how much you and your wife, Mary, have impacted my life in many, many makeovers of myself, but also our homes, my offices. I haven't created, opened, used a space without you. And many accolades I get for the spaces I have. And that really is all thanks to you.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. And Mary and I feel the same way about, just helping people experience what change can do. And you've seen it with the two of us. You've had us over and you've said, we don't know what to do with that room. And all of a sudden we're like, just let us go deal with the room. You go have dessert or whatever. And that's the fun thing, is that for us in our own home, we're always changing things around all the time. So people are kind of used to that, and you're used to that. You see that in our space. But for other people to experience that, and you've experienced it firsthand, it goes so far. I mean, you don't realize, like, when you're living in a space, and you and I, we work with families who are in spaces with their kids and their families every day, and there are so many things that they're dealing with, and then all of a sudden they come home and it's like this environment is, like you said, either good to them or it's not good to them. And I see it all the time, and it's just such a powerful tool that we can learn to change up to really benefit us on so many levels.
Yeah, so much so. So, obviously with PANS, PANDAS, autism, all the things I deal with, all of our families are overwhelmed by appointments, by the daily care of their children, all of the things, just life. So good home design, you've said, has the power to change lives. How does that apply to, like, the families that I take care of?
Well, I've seen it for so many years and doing this for over 25 years now of just going into homes and seeing people live in their spaces. And one of the things that's sort of a baseline with all families, and mine included, yours included, is that life gets in the way. And there's too many things that become a priority and things that you just focus your energy on. But you realize, and I've come to realize, that in all those years of doing design for real people and going into real homes, is that baseline is the same, is that this foundation that you come into every day and you come home to every day, start your day in and sort of spend a lot of time in, really starts to have an impact on you. One of the things that I saw in all my projects is that people like things to be the same, and there's a
Hmm.
safety in that. And so it's out of sight, out of mind. We don't have to deal with it, but you don't realize that not dealing with it and being out of sight, out of mind because you don't want to deal, you're dealing in your denial about your house, is that it's having an impact on you. And when you said, in ways that we see and ways that we don't see, it's very true, because I've seen it firsthand where people don't change a broken door, or they don't change
Right.
a sofa that's, seen better days. They just keep it there. And the keeping it there starts to suck the energy out of the space. And something that goes unfixed or something that goes unpainted or cleaned up, clutter is a big thing. That all that has an impact on you. It all of a sudden starts to build up. And the space that you come home to at the end of the day is not welcoming you home anymore. It's really kind of bringing you down. And
Yeah.
especially when families are dealing with, their kids and all the things that might be dealing with, doctor's appointments and going to here and there, is that exhausts you. So why not make your home space something that fuels you up again?
Yeah. So is that one of the things you mean by the unseen factors in a home
Yeah.
that can be adding to stress?
Yeah, it adds to the stress, it adds to your anxiety level, it adds to your energy level being drained, tired, and sort of overwhelmed, because you're coming into a kitchen. Like if you come in through your mudroom and you come into the kitchen and there are bills piled up on the countertop and there's, dishes in the sink and there's clutter, that starts to affect you. But the minute we start to change that and remove those items, and I'm not saying major renovations, major construction, lots of changes. It's simple little things that you can do that are step by step to really feel the difference. Like somebody sends you flowers and the flowers are sitting on your countertop and you walk in and you notice the flower arrangement and you appreciate it because it's something new, it's something beautiful,
Yeah.
and it draws your eye. Same thing in your space, making change happen, your desktop, your countertop, your coffee table, whatever it is, all of a sudden gives you this whole new attitude, and you don't realize it, but you get a kick out of it and you get a boost. And that is the way to change. And that's my big thing now, is that change is good and it's not a scary thing. And I know for a lot of people, it's scary and it shouldn't be.
I know. I know. Every time I visit you, the house looks different. Everything is moved, and
Yeah.
I have to embrace that. But the movement of furniture is something that's very simple. I mean, I remember when you were designing my latest office, which is very, very small, just the shift of a sofa to a corner rather than just made such a difference. It was such a relief. So
And
like you said, these don't have to be expensive things.
exactly. And it's not something that's going to take a lot of time. And I think
Yeah.
that's what people feel like, well, I don't have time. My schedule is too crazy. But if you came home on a Friday night and spent 1 hour, just forget about everything you're committed to, everything you've got to do. Take an hour and just put some music on and change the room around. And I just did a project down in Florida for a family, and they didn't really want to spend a lot of money with, setting it up and doing a lot of, decor purchases. And so I said, let me shop your house. Let me walk around your house. Can I go into the basement? Can I look, in your closets to get accessories and decor that you already have, because you're overwhelmed. You don't know what you have. And seeing is believing. And at the end of it, they were like, wow, we have that in our house. Where did that bench come from? So
Yeah.
you've got that potential. And I think that that's what's the fun part to me, because if you're taking it on yourself as a mom, a dad, a family together, is a
Yeah.
great thing as well, with the kids, and maybe changing up their play space, maybe changing up their homework area to really give them a say in how this changes up. And I will say, dealing with, teenagers, for example, that like things to stay the same and they don't want to change things up, that can be stressful. So I'm not asking you to go into a space and bulldoze everything and make it,
Right.
like all new. 'Cause I've done that. I've gone into spaces and tried to make it nice when the kids were little and stuff like that, but now I'm respecting that the kids have their own zone, and I think as parents, we need to think about that as well. So I'm really focusing in on the parents, really
Hmm.
giving themselves that space that's gonna be good for them.
Yeah, it's sort of like what we say about as parents, we need to put our own oxygen masks on first.
Yes, I just
You
heard
have
that
to,
example. Yes, yes,
yeah, you have to have that space, that safe space also.
yes.
And when you were talking about getting things from around the house, it reminded me many, many years ago when we couldn't sell a home and there was a dead space under the stairway as you came into the house. And
Yes.
you took an old urn that had dead flowers in it, the
Wow.
bottom of a cheese plate, a chair from the dining room, and some other little thing, and put that right there with a tiny lamp that had been in another area.
Yep.
And it just lightened up the space, made it all environment inviting. And as you said, there was no expense to that whatsoever.
Yeah.
It was just a shift. So talking about shifts, a lot of our kids, the ones that I see, have a lot of sensory processing
Yes.
challenges, whether it be a child with autism or a child with severe anxiety or OCD, intrusive thoughts with PANS and PANDAS. What does it mean when you talk about design and making a sensory shift there to create a safe place or a regulated space for these kids?
Well, I think the biggest thing that I've seen, and I did in a speaking event where a parent came up to me and asked me, what do I do, with my kids? They're on sensory overload, and they had already taken away the technology part of it, which to me is a big thing. I just
Yeah.
saw an interview with Carol Burnett, and she was saying, when I was a kid, we used to go out to play, and life was, we all went out to play. And when it got dark, we came home, and things have changed. So the kids are dealing with things coming at them. And so to me, when I
Mm,
heard that this family in particular had taken away the technology and having that be something that was a drain, I said, what about clutter? What's your space, the kids' space like? Is it overwhelming? Is there too much stuff going on? And the biggest takeaway from that was that less is more. And that's one of the
yeah.
biggest things that I can share with people is you don't need all that stuff. And sometimes as a parent, it's easier to maintain when there's less stuff to pick up and put away and toys and, all that stuff. But at the same time, for the kids, it kind of calms their mind.
Yeah.
And Mary and I, my wife, talk about this all the time, that that's something with the cases that she works on where there's too much. There's too much stuff
Yeah.
going on visually. And as a designer, for me, it's like I want it to look good, but I also want it to feel good. So it's
Yeah.
about the lighting. It's about the lack of things being cluttered and being organized so that there's a certain baseline that's creative of a foundation that is a comfort level that is safe and inviting. And going back to the beginning of the conversation, people don't like change because they like things to be comfortable and same, but sometimes that same is a negative, and that's
Yeah.
why I want them to create the environment, especially for the kids that you're talking about, where the parents don't have to maintain so much, but it's also creating this cocoon for the kids that's good for them. And I think really
Yeah.
that's what we have to look at it as a cocoon for them to sort of feel comfortable and safe.
Right. And the other thing that's very cocooning is color. I mean, you've taught me a lot about the types of color.
Mhm.
So many people went, oh, this really bright wall. Well, that may be good, but it may be a shock to your senses and actually be more stressful for some of these kids. Can you talk
Right.
about color a little bit?
Yeah, I see that a lot in a lot of the homes, especially when I was doing a lot of makeovers for magazines where I'd walk into a house and we were going to make over the room. And a lot of the houses had a lot of dark colors because people do what's trendy. They do what magazines or what Pinterest is saying is, hot right now. And then they feel that they need to introduce that into the house. But they don't realize that some of those things are going to impact their environment in a way that's not going to be right for them. So I've learned, and I've expressed that to clients and people that I know in design, is that you want to create this palette that's calming and something
Yeah.
that's going to be inviting. And it's about choosing colors that also play out differently at different times of day. So right now,
Hmm.
I'm speaking in a white room, but the use of lamps with certain colors on the wall. Like one of my favorite colors, and you know this because it's one of my go-tos, is Stonington Gray from Benjamin Moore. And the reason
Love it.
why I like it, and I know you know it well because you've used you've seen it used recently, is that it changes with the color at the time of day. So if it's
Yeah.
sunlight, if it's lamplight, so things like that subtly that change. And the same thing can be said for textures on furniture and accessories. Is, keeping things simple and clean can go a long way in those kind of environments specifically.
Yeah. And then you've also taught me about the pop of color. If I
Yeah.
want that color, I can put a pillow or the flowers you mentioned before or something else to bring that pop in that I could change more easily than the colors on my wall, for example.
You're adding that pop of color in the accessories that you can change. And that, like you
Yeah.
said, you're not committing to making a new paint color on the wall or renovating a space. You're rearranging what's happening. I urge people to have like a closet where they have props and they have little accessories that they can pull out and rotate over time. Because people that know us and know my family, we're always changing those things because to me, that keeps it interesting for me as a homeowner coming in, but it's a creative tool for other people to take advantage of because you want to change it up because it gets stagnant, it gets boring. And I say same, same, same all the time, but it's true is that you walk in and you see the same thing all the time. It's not giving you that boost of energy that you need and getting you excited about being in your space again. And you need that, especially in our
Yeah.
crazy world. We need to come in and have control over this environment that is good to us.
Yeah. And and you talk about design or our environment that can lift us up or pull us down. And
Mhm.
and I wanted to give one example, and then I'd like you to too, of we often have boxes and stuff we have to keep. And my practice manager likes to keep them close to her desk. And I remember when we were designing again this very small space, your recommendation was to have a sort of panel to panel that off, a very decorative,
Yeah.
pretty one. And I thought, oh, we don't need that. We'll just put the boxes under the desk or whatever. I cannot tell you how much I love that piece of, I don't even know what it's called. It's some kind of paneling that we put
Yeah.
up to just sort of put that stuff behind it. So what I walk into is calmness and
Hmm.
beauty and not seeing a bunch of boxes hanging out from behind the desk.
Well, and that's why, for example, they tell you never have your home office in your bedroom because you're going to wake up in the
Yeah.
morning and see stuff that reminds you of work. And it's the same thing in your work environment. It's the same thing in your home is that you want your eye to be drawn to things that you love. So if it's in your home environment or your work environment, something beautiful to look at, whether it's a piece of art on the walls or it's flowers or plants or the accessories that you have on the coffee table, but also personalizing it. Like, you could have framed photos of places that you've gone to or people that you
Yeah.
love. You can have collections of things that mean something to you introduced into the space. You don't need to see the pile of bills. You don't need to see the files that remind you of work or whatever. And it's something so simple, but people overlook that because they think like, oh, my house is not a magazine. I'm never going to have it look picture perfect. And it's not about, and that's the whole thing. It's not the stuff I'm talking about is not keeping up with the Joneses. It's not, magazine photo shoots because nobody lives there. It's not, Instagram lifestyle shots that people, envy. It's about really just making your environment beautiful in the way that's right and beautiful for you. But also, what I'm saying is that you're changing the things that are always the same, and you need to make the change happen. And that's why, to me, I'm taking everything that I've learned in all my years of doing design for so many people and taking that common denominator, which is that I've seen it, that the before and after of somebody's change and seeing the end result just re-energizes them in such a powerful way. And I think we need that more than ever now. And especially the clients that you have, their families are overwhelmed with all that they're dealing with. And I can't be there to make the change happen with them. So I'm urging them to hear this and say, you know what? Take an hour, just an hour. And maybe it's on the weekend and maybe it's after the kids go to bed, but to wake up the next morning and to see the decluttered kitchen or to see the rearranged family room or the homework station get a whole new boost, a whole new look, that's exciting because you wake up and you're like, wow, I made that happen. And that's also the thing is building up the confidence to be able to take it on yourself and to make the change happen because then you say, okay, if I can do that, I can keep going forward and do something else.
Yeah. And I think it's so important for our kids with pans and pandas
Mm.
because they often have such cluttered and intrusive thoughts, such anxiety and
Right,
stress in their insides.
right.
That if we can make their room or their workspace less cluttered and more calm, that can do a lot for their psyche.
Right. But I also understand from the research that I've looked into as well as the neuroscience and all that is that
Yeah.
there are some spaces where it's better for their stuff to stay the same and not change too much because that gives them control over something, especially when you're dealing with pans. And I understand that
Got it.
there's certain things that need to stay the same so that they feel like, okay, this is my zone. And I get that. So at the same time, the parents leading by example to in the kitchen, for example, they're making dinner. Dim the lights, light a candle, put some
Hmm.
music on that's calming. You're leading by example. It's making you calm and de-stressed you while you're going through this process. Sit down and have dinner together as a family. That music can be playing, that candle can be lit. And even if it's just little moments, you're shifting things by doing that in a different way. Instead of like saying dinner's ready and everybody rushes in or doesn't rush in, everybody's kind of stays in their own corner. So there are ways as a parent that you can work with this way of life that's the way it is right now to make it better for you and to get you through to the other side.
Yeah. And when your wife Mary and I have lectured together on setting up practices, etc.,
Yeah.
one of the things you're mentioning now that she always mentions is the five senses.
Yes.
We've talked about color and that sight and
Mhm.
decluttering and that sight, and you just talked about music and sound, which is also part of your environment. But all of those pieces are really important, right?
They really are, and it's something that you don't think about, but I know from a design standpoint, like when I set up a makeover or we've done a house renovation and I go in and I set it up for the client and they walk in and it's done. I love those reveal moments, but part of it is music and part of it is
Yeah.
that emotional connection that they'll get from that memory of that space being transformed. And it's like a soundtrack for them. And that's important to me. And I feel like in everyday life, when I'm creating and I'm designing, I've got music playing in the background when I'm sketching or whatever it is. That's a big part of my process, but I also know that's a big part of just creating an atmosphere. And that's really what you're trying to do. It's not, earth shattering, it's something new that's being revealed. It's like, let's think about the simple senses that are affected by walking into a space. Your sense
Yeah.
of what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're smelling, like the smell of chicken noodle soup, cooking on the stove or chocolate chip cookies in the oven. There are certain things that connect you to an emotional memory of something, and there's a comfort level there. And I think that that's a very big part of your home environment.
Yeah, and we talk about smells all the time. I mean, I'm talking to my families about essential oils and
Yes.
diffusers, and then your realtor tells you to bake and not burn
Right.
some cookies before
Yep.
the showing, and but those smells in our everyday lives and transforming them. I mean, at
Right.
night, bringing in more of the chamomile and those relaxing scents.
Yes.
So important.
And people don't think about it because you're overwhelmed, and I get that, and
Yeah.
that's why it's like a chance to pause and say, "This is an added tool that you can add to your tool belt to really kinda empower you as a parent to help you in a positive way."
Yeah, and speaking of being overwhelmed, what many of our families are overwhelmed by is their expenses.
Yeah.
Remediating a home that's full of mold, all the doctor's visits and the supplements and the school and the tutors and all of that. And I know again and again and again, you have shown me how to harness the power of our current environment
Yeah.
without breaking the bank or
Right.
doing a major renovation or any of that. So how would you bring that to these families too?
Well, what I've been doing is one of personally what I've been trying to do because this is my mission is really empowering people about environments and how change can impact their lives. So I've been offering Zoom coaching sessions where a family I just did one last week where the family reached out, the husband and wife, they couldn't agree on how things should happen. So I became the shrink in many ways, to have a conversation with them for 45 minutes to an hour. And basically, me seeing something that they're showing me about their home environment is easier because they're too close to it. So the end
Yeah.
result of that 1 hour session that was a one time thing for them. Sometimes I do a couple sessions for people, but I love it that I'm seeing something that they can't see because they're too close to it. And when you come home every day and you see the same thing and you say, I
Yeah.
just can't deal. I just can't deal with it. Or if you're a couple trying to figure it out and you've got differences of opinion because you're both, coming at it from different directions, it's easier for me to, as a designer who sees this all the time, to say, this is what I'm honestly seeing. This is my gut reaction. And all of a sudden, all of that other stuff falls away and they're being heard, they're being seen, and then I'm hearing both sides. And then I'm saying, this is really what I would do. If I came in there and did this makeover of your house and made these changes happen, this is what I would do. So this is what I suggest for you. And that simple, it's just connection. It's a connection with these people and hearing them because I know that they're overwhelmed and I know that they're feeling it's emotional. They're feeling
Yeah.
they're not good enough, they're not doing enough. And then they've got their house on top of it they have to deal with, and they've got to add more expenses to that. So, what can I do? And Mary and I talk about this all the time. It's like simpler is better, but to work with these families and say, hey, this is what we're seeing. We get it, but
Yeah.
let's do this. And here's your game plan and to
Yeah.
make it attainable. And it's not bulldozing. It's not, going out and spending thousands of dollars. It's usually just reworking what you already have. And that saves the day.
Right. I mean, I've seen you take, you know, when a room needed very much deeper colors, deeper tones,
Yep.
rather than just buying the new furniture, stain what you already have a deeper color.
Right.
That's a transition that's much less expensive than buying new furniture, and it's a new look.
It's a new look and it's
Yeah.
a chance to, again, like I said, shop your house or trade
Yeah.
with your friends. I mean, I've got groups of
Oh,
women that, that I, will hear from magazine stuff that I've done, like Better Homes and Gardens, where they'll say, hey, we had a tag sale and we traded our stuff. They didn't even sell the stuff to each other. They were selling and trading props, the decor props that one house didn't want anymore. So I'm sure you've got friends, you've got family that have stuff that you can trade out with them. And to me, that kind of makes it a fun process. And there are mom groups, there are parenting groups I know online that people get together and they give each other advice. And this is one of the things that I think is such a great thing for people to do because you've all got stuff. And
yeah.
sometimes we have too much stuff. So take that stuff and shift it around and use it to your advantage creatively in your home, and they can use your stuff in their home. And so there's a chance to have some fun with it. And I think that's
Yeah.
one thing that is sort of a message to remember is you got to have fun with it because there's too much serious stuff going on. And you need to use this creative outlet as a de-stressor. And it's fun. I mean, it's fun for me, but I've seen it be fun for other people as well.
Look, I have no design sense whatsoever, and it's fun for me when you direct me
Right.
and show me how to do it. I mean, it really is. And I think so much of the time we get, for me in medicine and the people that come to see me, we get
Yeah.
so bogged down with which medicine is right, which supplement is right, which diet is right.
Yeah.
But if we can look more at the lifestyle, the getting outside, the changing up the spaces in our home, how we're living, how we're going
Yeah.
about that, we can bring some joy back in without any money.
Yeah, and I think a lot of families in, this economy, they're feeling, stressed out to begin with, and people might not have the dream house. They might be living in the starter house. They might be living in a condo or an apartment, whatever it is, but it's your home environment and it's
Yeah.
your space. And, people starting out, in life, in their 20s or whatever, going out and getting their first place, it's your first place. And you're creating this environment because you're figuring out who you are as this style that's yours in your space. And then couples who, started out and they're buying their first home. And then you introduce kids into the situation. And that style that you originally had together evolves because the kids take center stage. So I've seen it all. I've understand, all the different stages of life. I've heard from so many people that are just really honest and open about what they're trying to figure out. And I love it because I can cut to the chase. And I can go right to, sort of like ask the right questions and say, what about this? And why haven't you done this? And, what do you, essentially it comes down to what are you afraid of? And they're just like, we don't want to make the wrong choice. And like you said, you don't
Yeah.
necessarily have the design sense, but you don't have to. But I also feel that people judge themselves based on what other people have done. So they might have, a mother-in-law who's really good at design and they come to your house and they have everything wrong is happening in your house. But at the end of the day, it's like, what do you respond to?
Right.
What do you like? What is it that, you're drawn to that will help make it more your space while you're dealing with everything else that life has thrown your way? So
Right.
That's what I like. I like being able to pare it down and simplify it and say, just do this. Just
Yeah.
even if it's 3 things, make those 3 things change and try it
Yeah.
out.
So you're obviously focusing on empowering and educating families,
Yeah.
the everyday guy like me and my family. But you've worked with celebrities, you've worked with big magazines, TV networks. What was it that really sparked this new direction for you?
Well, I love talking to people. I mean, I love when I get to go to a speaking event and just speak from the heart. I never go with a script. I always, I kind of read the crowd and I get a sense of who the people are that I'm speaking to. And I love when I get to do a media interview because I get to like zone in on something that I'm really excited about, like a topic that means a lot to me. And when I look back on my career and I think about the things that I've done on TV and in magazines and all the stuff that I've done, what resonates with me is that connection with the people that I get to meet when I go do something or when I
Mm,
speak at something or when I go to an event about design that's empowering people about design. And what resonates with me is the real families. It's the real people that, that they're the ones that I connect with because I get it. I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I'm a homeowner. I get that, life throws stuff your way and you're like, oh, I've got a to-do list. The to-do list on my refrigerator, I've got that. So I understand them and I'm not trying to approach it as, oh, he's a designer, so he's untouchable, not approachable. And I think what resonates with the people that have seen my work is that I remain approachable and I remain somebody that's open to hearing your story and hearing what your dilemmas are and what your stress is and taking my experience and saying, here I am to help you out. And that's really what the focus has been. I realized like, yeah, I enjoy working with the magazine makeovers and taking the pictures and having the before and after. But the real people that are going through the stuff they're going through, that means a lot to me because I feel like that's something that I can have a say in. And that's something that I can
yeah.
do something about with the talent and the creativity that I have and shift it to make their lives better and to change it up.
So what's one first attainable change? Like somebody that's listening or watching
Yeah.
this and feeling like their life is chaos, they're unsupported. Here's another podcast that's just, I got to pay somebody else to come into my house.
Right, right.
What would be a first attainable change that they can make to start to shift that?
Pick one room. Pick one room that really is the space you spend a lot of time in. Maybe it's the room that you come in through when you come out of the garage or you've parked your car, you come in, you got all your stuff. What's that room? Because that's the room that's having its first impression on you. There's nothing worse than walking in like, I haven't done the dishes. I haven't, put the stuff away. The breakfast stuff is still there, whatever it is. Take that room. Don't worry about, the rooms that everybody is going to see when they come for Thanksgiving or when they come for Christmas or whatever it is. Think about the room that on a daily basis you deal with. So in most cases, it might be a mud room. It might be the kitchen. It might be the family room. Pick that room and just really step back. And one of the things that I urge people to do, use your phone. We've all got our phones. Stand in a doorway of the first impression of the room when you walk in and take a picture of it the way it is now.
Mm,
And then look at that picture because something about the magic of like magazines and makeovers where everybody looks like here's the before space, the view is, and here's the after. But the idea of seeing it through the lens, I think is a creative way for people to empower themselves because I really feel that you will start to see like, oh, that looks messy over there, or why is that like that? Or boy, that chair is really bad because you want to start to take the stuff away that's not there. So seeing in your family room or whatever room you choose, the clutter. There are coats there from the summer, but it's the middle of winter. So why are the coats still on the hook? There are shoes there that are from last season's, soccer practice, and now it's winter. There's no soccer. Finding those things another home will make sense. But you really want to declutter those spaces so that you can see the baseline of what's there because the fun part is rearranging it. So if it's a
yeah.
mudroom, you might not be able to rearrange, but you can get rid of the stuff that doesn't need to be there. You could add some stuff. Maybe there's an art piece that you like from your guest room or something that you have in the basement, put it in the mudroom so that all of a
Yeah.
sudden there's something new.
Yeah.
Same thing with the kitchen. Your countertop has got so much potential to be a great looking space. And the decluttering part is easier in many ways in a kitchen because a lot of stuff just needs to be put away. And once you do that, then you can say, oh, well, here's a bowl that I bought on vacation years ago that I never used, but I can put it on my island with some lemons, which is my big prop is on everybody knows with my
Yes.
photo shoots I do, lemons and Pellegrino bottles. But the idea is that you can introduce new things once you see through the lens what's wrong with the space.
Yep.
And I go back to the thing about it's not about like what Thanksgiving is like when you prepare your house for people to come over. It's really about you in your everyday and thinking about how you're walking into that space because you want it to welcome you. You don't want it to remind you of all the things that are on your checklist that you haven't accomplished. And that's one thing I do a lot of I listen to podcasts as well. And, we're bringing my podcast back, which I put on the back burner to kind of figure out what I really want this focus of empowering people about design in their environments to be. And one of the things that resonates with me is that, people just feel so overwhelmed by these things that are bombarding them when they walk through the door. Not to mention, you've got your pets, you've got your kids, you've got your family members, but the environment just comes at you. And I think people don't realize that as much as they do. And I say, just get it out of the way, put it away, declutter it, rearrange it, have some fun with it, but you deserve it. And I think that's
Yeah.
the thing in the clients that you work with and the families you work with. I think they just have so much going on that if they could give themselves that little treat of an environment that's going to impact them in ways that they obviously see because they made the change happen, or I helped them make the change happen, but they can see something at the end that is tangible. And
Yeah.
that's what I love about cooking because there's a beginning, a middle, and an end when you're preparing a meal. But in design, it can kind of be the same way if you break it out in the way that's attainable. So you have a
Mm.
beginning, a middle, and end. And if you're taking that picture of what's wrong with that mudroom or that kitchen, and then you can have the after shot, it may not be picture perfect, but the idea of you doing it yourself and making it happen and making the motion to change up the energy, that's huge. That's like a pat on the
Exactly.
back right there. And that's going to motivate you to want to do it again. Maybe it's next weekend for another hour, or maybe it's tomorrow because now you say, why am I wasting my time watching TV when I can be making these changes happen? And people see the change, you see the change, your kids will feel the change, and they'll also see it as well. And that's good for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, and it such that taking a picture, that mental picture,
Mhm.
that picture with your phone
Yeah.
makes such a difference. I mean, we haven't been in the place we're living for very long, and I did that the other day, and I realized that this one little loose floorboard was causing me such angst every time I walked in.
Yeah.
And all we did was put a little, like, very sweet little area rug right on top of it. So now I don't see it.
Right.
Didn't cost anything and we'll fix it, but it was that little thing that can make a difference, or buying some bins to put those things in. Or maybe you can't get everything out of the way, but you can get some inexpensive little baskets or bins from IKEA or whatever.
Yep.
One of the places I've shopped with you many times.
Yeah.
But there's so many little ways to do that. One of the other steps you gave me once that I wanted to tell people about was the chalkboard paint, which I
Mm.
had never heard of till I met you. And it was something we did in several of my offices
Yeah.
where we just took a section of wall and painted it with chalkboard paint, took some pieces of wood and framed it out. It made it look special with no
Yep.
money. And yet it was something the kids could write on and play with all the time. Just another very simple first attainable
Yeah.
change.
And I love that because for me, and I joke about my refrigerator because my refrigerator has chalkboard paint on it and it's my to-do list. So when I have a
Yeah.
reminder of something, I put it up there. So for parents to be able to have a place where it's out of your mind, and I think that not literally you're out of your mind, but it's out of your head so that you're putting it up on a board and it's something that's okay, it's there. It's not overwhelming. And I in my
Yeah.
podcast, The Driven by Design Studio, I talk with a lot of people that were successful in business, and I really wanted to understand the creative mind. And one of the things that I would ask people is, how do you organize your mind? And one of the things was, there was one thing is like having to-do lists, which I thought was interesting for me as someone who loves lists, is that sometimes to-do lists can get overwhelming because people put everything on their to-do list, and then by
Mhm.
the end of the day, they haven't accomplished anything, and then they feel like they've completely wasted the day because they never got maybe 2 things done out of a list of 40 things. So there's a
Yeah.
certain amount of too much is too much. So that's why I feel like a chalkboard is like attainable things that are like, "Oh, here are the things that are gonna be done today." And I think
Yep.
that's what's manageable, because why I love chalkboards is that then when it's done, you erase it. And there's nothing better than that feeling of like, "Oh, the chalkboard's clean because we've
Yep.
done what we needed to do." And I think, again, it's micro focus on what you're looking to do with change in a space, change on a to-do list, so that you make it attainable so that it's something you actually wanna do. And that's one of the things I think people can, we all know this, we can all do this, talk themselves out of it, and they'll say, I'll do it tomorrow." And then
Right.
tomorrow comes and you don't do it because there's something
Right.
new on your plate and there's something new coming at you. And I think that, and everybody can procrastinate, and I get that, and there's, procrastination in a lot of us, and putting something off is almost as much of a drain as actually tackling something. And maybe it's not perfect, but you've
Hmm.
done it. And my wife and I talk about the phrase that, done is, I can't remember now, I'm going to try to remember what it is. Done is better than perfect, or perfect is
Yeah.
better. Yeah, done is better than perfect.
Done is
And I
better.
love that
Yeah.
because it's so true, because you can be in your mind so much like, I'm not going to change this, or this kitchen is going to get renovated someday, or someday I'm going to paint this
Right.
room. And you don't do it because you're afraid you're not going to do it right. But the fact of changing it and actually committing to making the change happen, all of a sudden, it frees you on so many levels. And I can't explain it. I mean, I'm going to have to do a whole deep dive on the scientific sort of neuroscience behind it. But I do know that the cortisol levels of your brain, especially in women, and some of the research that I've seen, that changes in their environment do something to their brain that all of a sudden it just clicks in a
Oh,
very
yeah.
positive way. And so I think there's something about that for using that to your advantage, and especially in the environments where people are feeling overwhelmed, where things are just stagnant. And that ability to just make the change happen and go with it is going to release something that's going to be so positive.
Yeah, I was just talking to a friend this morning who every Saturday when we get together talks about how she's going to tackle the picture box. She's going
Mhm.
to pull out the pictures
Yeah,
or the artwork or whatever. She's going to do
yeah,
it today. And I remember another one you did for me, which was it was basically just a clothesline or a piece of string
yeah,
where you put a bunch of clothespins in and you could hang things up. And I actually told her that this morning, and she goes, "Oh my gosh, then I don't need to get them into the frames and I don't need to do this. Then I can
yeah.
just put them up and see them." And it was such a little thing
Mhm.
that was such a great little tip that
And you can
I
change
passed on
them.
that yeah,
That's the whole
every
thing.
day.
You could, exactly. You could be, well, then you become really obsessive about it. Like, I have to change the pictures, but you can change it. And that's the whole thing, is that you're not committing. It's like you said, I'm not painting a room, I'm
Right.
changing the decor. And I think people feel, because there's so much social media, there's so much, there are magazines that are great inspiration. But I think at the end of the day, keeping up with the Joneses is a big, stressor for a lot of people. And I
Yeah.
think that that's something everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's going to have something to say about, you chose a color that you loved in your dining room. You loved it, and that's the whole thing, and that's really part of what my sort of message is now, is that what you respond to. What, you're excited about, and what you get this feeling of. Maybe there's a color in your house that you've put up that has a nostalgic connection for you to your grandmother's house, or to your mom, or whoever it is, or, whatever it is. If it's something, there's a piece of artwork that you love because it just brings some visual thing to you that is a memory that you love. And there's something about that, to me, is so powerful, because it's not somebody else's idea of what a house should be. It's your home, and it's
Yeah.
your idea of what you respond to. And I think in the midst of everyday life and everyday bombarding of everything that's coming at you, people forget the essence of what their house is and what it could
Mm.
be and what it should be. And I think that that is really what we need to remind people about. I think in your work environment, it's the same thing. In your home environment, it's the same thing. You're not able to control the outside world or the things that are being thrown at you in many cases with life, but you can have a say on this place that is the foundation of your life. And
Yeah.
that's, to me, was resonates with me as sort of, this next chapter of my work creatively is I feel that I'm reminding people that this is your foundation. These are the places that no matter if it's an apartment, if it's a house, if you're an empty nester and it's a new house that, is not your normal environment, but you have the ability to make it something that is gonna make you feel like you, and it's gonna
Yeah.
remind you of you, and then you can be you to everybody else. You can be the good you because you've created this nest for yourself. And in many ways, it is kinda nesting. It is in a way, but it's a new kind of nesting because you're
Yeah.
not a bird, you're a person, and you're creating this environment that's for you.
Well, how do you do it with somebody? I hear that voice in my head from many, many years ago. Well, I don't know what I want. It's
Yeah,
sort of like Julia Roberts in Runaway Bride. What kind of eggs do I like? I don't know. I got to eat all the
right.
eggs. How do you help draw that out of people who say, I have no idea what's going to make my environment better?
Well, I think it's a certain amount of dreaming a little bit of like,
Hmm.
what you respond to. I mean, you and I have talked about this before. And, in my book, No Place Like Home, I talk about movies or TV shows. We
Yeah.
all watch movies, we all watch TV shows, and they've all got houses in them that you might respond to. And I love that there's a way to use that to your advantage. Okay, so you're sitting there
Hmm.
watching something and you're entertained, but are there houses you're seeing? Are you with your spouse and you say, "Hey, I like that house," or "I like that apartment," and what is it about it that you respond to? All of a sudden, you're having a dialogue either with yourself about why you respond to it or with somebody that's with
Yeah.
you to say, I like that. Oh, I like that style. I didn't know I was a modern, farmhouse person.
Yeah.
I didn't know that I liked, country, sort of setting like that house. I mean, we talk about something's got to give. That Diane Keaton movie. Diane Keaton, we all loved her. That house and the Nancy Myers movies. They create this style of this lifestyle that we aspire to, and that's what you respond to. And all of a sudden, you're drawn to it. Well, you don't have to have the exact replica of what's in there, but you can
Hmm.
look at it and say, you watch the movie, streaming it, and you can freeze frame it. And you can say, I like that room because I like this color, or I like that style of furniture. And all of a sudden, you start to empower yourself to communicate what you like to yourself or to the people that you're talking to. It's like, yeah, I'm that style. And that I think is daunting for a lot of people because they just don't know where to start. But if you're watching something, it's entertaining you, it's a great
Yeah.
creative tool. You're educating yourself in ways that you didn't expect to educate yourself, but I think use it as a creative tool to figure out what your style is. And I love it when it's couples trying to do that because a lot of times I'll say to couples in our little Zoom sessions or with clients in real life, I'll say, what's a movie that you've seen or a TV show? And then all of a sudden, and it's not like you both have to agree, but it's something that speaks to both of you. And what is it about it? And then all of a sudden you can start to marry those things together and have, a dialogue that makes sense in the world of design, but in the world of even just creating an aesthetic. I mean, you might not have this furniture that you dream about having or the artwork or even the house, but how can you create that essence that kind of
Yeah.
taps into that a little bit?
Yeah. That then is going to make that environment more right for you.
Right.
That will really help not just your life, but your health
Yes.
and that of your kids.
And that's the big
Absolutely.
thing too, is I think that, again, I said at the beginning is parents leading by example, because I think there's so many things that you have no control over with the kids and the situations that your clients are dealing with. And there are some things they have to let go of. So what can they do to feel that there's this empowerment? And that's the word that keeps coming to mind of not, always having to go with stuff that's coming at you, but here's a little department in my life that I can have a say in because I deserve to have this nourishing, energizing, comforting space that is not only good for me and my immediate family, but for my extended family when I leave this house, that I have this baseline that's been good to me and to them, even though they may not understand it. And I know with the parents and the kids, they're dealing with things that they're not necessarily, the kids are not going to come in and say, wow, this is really pretty. This makes me feel nice. But they might. They might get a little bit of that in some other way, that they might be drawn into the space more. They may want to hang out in the kitchen more because you've
Yeah.
created this atmosphere by leading by example. And that's really what I want to remind people is that you have the power within you to really kind of make the changes happen simply, but they're going to have an effect on you and they're going to have effect on the people around you as well.
Yeah. And it's so powerful. So what's next for you, Stephen? I know you have a podcast and it's coming back,
Yep.
the Driven by Design Studio. So what else?
So one of the things that I'm, because I love doing TV and I love, doing the showing by example, leading by example and showing people the process. And one of the things I really want to spend more time doing is showing them the process that I go out and do if it's a project for a client or a makeover for, a magazine, to show that sort of behind the scenes, if you will, so that they
Uh-huh.
can hear it from me so that they can learn as they're seeing. So it's not necessarily me sitting and looking at the camera and saying, "This is how you make your kitchen look better." It's showing it, and
Yeah.
let's talk about it. And so visually, I've learned that seeing is believing. So a podcast, obviously, we can talk about stuff. And the thing I love about the podcast, and you understand this, but the idea that people can listen to you and learn and subliminally learn by absorbing it, by hearing you.
Yeah.
And that's why I love the power of the podcast and the idea that somebody can be working out, they can be in their car, they can be making dinner, they can listen to parts of it and then pause it and then come back to it or whatever. But it's a friend in your
Hmm.
ear. And there's a comfort level there. And I realized that. And that's part of why I stopped the podcast and took it off and then realized where I want it to go and how I want to use it moving forward. And I realized that simple fact is that you are like a designer, well, for me, designer friend in the person's ear. In your case, you're their doctor friend in their ear. And there, it's the voice in your head in a way that is absorbing what you're saying and sharing with them. And I realized there's a certain amount of responsibility in that. And I wanted it to be a message that I'm excited about, that I'm passionate about, that I can then share that enthusiasm and that excitement with people that either they want to listen or they don't want to listen, or they want to see it and they don't want to see it. So I love that. And that to me is creatively fulfilling for me, but it always goes back to helping real life people with the real life homes. And that's not changing. And that's become even more of a focus.
Yeah. And why is that so important to you? Why do you feel so strongly about that being needed right now in our world today?
Well, I think there's so many things that have gone by the wayside, traditions that we have, like I joked with somebody the other day, like in the 50s when people used to dress up to go out just to go get something at the market, the people would dress in nice clothes and now we wear sweatpants and pajamas, things like that. It's like there are traditions that have gone away, but the home environment is a constant. It's
Yeah.
evolved over time and it's changed. And in my book, I talk about what I grew up with when I was a kid and how those homes had an influence on me. And as a father and as a parent with my wife Mary and our kids and creating this environment for our kids. And now, people are going off and living their own lives and about to start their own lives. And it's just to me that's it's I like it because you have an opportunity to continue reminding people of the home is where the heart is. I know it's corny. I know it sounds, familiar, but it is really true. And that's why my book, No Place Like Home, was named because it's no place like home, like the movie, The Wizard
Yeah.
of Oz. And at the end, no matter where you go off into the world and see all this crazy stuff. You come back, and at the end, Annie M, there is no place like home. And you're remembering, yeah, I saw all this stuff, but I come back here at the end of the day. And that I don't know, it's something so simple, but I think people
Yeah.
have forgotten that in this day and age, and I think, in the world of social media showing you, "This is the perfect life you're supposed to have," and, "Look at me, I'm so great," but then people are realizing, "I'm not that, I'm never gonna be that, and my home is pretty simple, and my family's pretty simple, and I love having the simplicity," and I love that. That's
Yeah.
that's that's what I'm about, so
Yeah.
let's help each other with that.
Well, you've made so many of my offices, my homes feel like home, feel like a place I want to be. And the patients I take care of, the friends I bring in, that they want to be here.
Yeah.
And it has to do with all the things you've talked about, the light and the color and the decluttering and the seeing the space and I could go on and on about how much I adore your process, and what you bring to what you do. So check out the book, No Place Like Home. Check out the podcast when it's back, Driven
Yeah.
by Design. And how else could they reach out to you, Stephen,
The
if they
best
wanted
place.
to?
Yep, it's the website, saintonge.com, so saint-onge.com, and that's the best place. They can find out about the Zoom consults, and that's where I deal with all my client stuff, and it's just really trying to show people, I'm reachable. I'm there for you. I'm not going to be judging you. And that's the one thing I think people feel
Yeah.
that they don't work with designers because they feel like, oh, that person's going to have like an opinion about what my house looks like. And I've seen it all. I mean, I have been across America and Canada, and I have seen so many houses and so many styles and so many, and I don't even judge it anymore. I think that people feel, I mean, maybe at the beginning of my career, I would have gone in and like, oh, what were they thinking? But now I realize like, okay, this is what they've done. This is what they've created. And I've seen, doing TV makeovers, there were crews and we were coming into, a space that we've never been to in Tucson, Arizona, or wherever it was, and we're making the magic happen. But then there are other times where there are real life clients who have called me in and have said, okay, we just can't see it anymore. And it's just fun for me now to be able to see, okay, I'm not judging you. I'm here to help you figuring out a better way because you're not seeing it yet. And for me, when I was on Oprah, she said, you can see the potential in any space. And I said, yes, I can see it. I see beyond the clutter. I see beyond the stuff that you're seeing every day. And that's why she said, well, that's why they call you Saint-Onge. Well, it's not why they call me Saint-Onge. It's because I get it. I get where you're coming from. And I get that life just throws a lot at you. And we've all seen that. And at the end of the day, if I can help you make a space better for your life to be better, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah. And that's what we all want in every aspect of our lives, to be gotten, to be
Yeah.
listened to.
Yeah.
And I know you do that. And thank you for doing it. And
It was great
well,
to be here, and I thank you very much for asking me, and I think that if we can in all that we do, I mean, I respect you and all that you do for the families you work with, and if we can just all get together to figure out a way to just to like, balance things out because we know it's crazy and there's a lot happening and, these families deserve a break. They really do, right? I mean,
yeah,
they really do, and
yeah.
it doesn't all have to be dark and depressing. It can be something that, uplifts you at the same time and gives you things that you don't expect. And that's what I've learned through design. And that's why we're talking about this. And we're going to keep talking about because I could, like you, I can keep talking about design all the time.
Forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can't talk about design, but I could listen to you talk about it.
Okay.
I'll talk about PANDAS. So
Okay.
anyway, thank you, Stephen, for
You're
being
welcome.
here.
Thank you.
And thank you, everybody, for listening and watching. And we'll see you next time on Demystifying PANS. That's it for today's episode of Demystifying PANDAS. I hope you're walking away with insights, tools, and hope to help you and your child on this journey. If you found today's conversation valuable, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Share this podcast with anyone who might need it. It could be the lifeline they're searching for. And if you have a moment, leaving a review helps us reach even more families who deserve answers. Also, for more information, training, and community, check out our website, drohara.com, and join our annual membership. And remember, every step forward, no matter how small, brings us closer to healing and understanding. Until next time, be present, be hopeful, and we look forward to seeing you next time on Demystifying PANS.